gearnetwork.com.
The following is a presentation of the Gear Radio Network. You're listening to the Better Live Than Dead podcast on the Gear Radio Network.
And with that, we welcome you to the Better Live Than Dead podcast, powered by Better Live Than Dead and the Gear Radio Network. This is episode 178.
178. Dude, that's a beautiful number.
You heard it right. You heard the voices. You know the voices. This is 178 times you've heard at least my voice and or somebody else's voice. I am Ryan Wolfe at Wolfe BLTD, joined on the IndyCar Media Hotline by Mr. Perez at MRLG Perez. Lewis, it's been a hot minute. How you been, man?
It's been a while, man. You know, I'm doing well. Just working, working away. I just got done with work right now. I'm driving home from Buffalo. I'm relaxing, talking to you. I got a cigar lit up. You know how I do. Hell
yeah.
So,
well, the good news is that we don't really have much of a podcast to talk about or to talk about tonight, I guess. I guess that's the right way to look at it. Okay. But it's been a minute. I mean, it's mid-September, which our podcast is entitled Mid-September. Is that right? It is. It's wild. And you can hear also, before I forget to mention, you can hear us on BetterLiveThanDead.com, GearNetwork.com, and wherever else you listen to podcasts. Excuse me. I had some coffee, but it really isn't doing the trick. I'm very sleepy this evening. I think it's been a very busy week, very busy month, very busy past few months. Right before we got on the air, I was actually just mentioning to you, Lewis, that my AC unit and furnace were replaced yesterday and into today. And if you're in the Western New York area, I do strongly suggest Triple O. They are fantastic. Lewis actually suggested them to me, which was I must say, you really had me there for a second, because normally when someone says, yeah, I know a guy, which you know a lot of guys and girls, you're like, oh yeah, I know a guy. Let me hook you up. Let me get you a direct line of contact. So I was like, oh, cool. This will be super easy. And then I asked Lewis, I said, okay, so who should I contact? He goes, I don't know, just call their main number. And I'm like, you're telling me you know the guy and you're friendly with him. And I'm like, bro, you're killing me. And that cracked me up. But I'm glad I went with them. Good people. Very quality product. My house is already very comfortable, and it's only been a few hours. And I must say, we got very lucky, Lewis. We only had, I think, 2 or 3 incredibly hot days left in the summer. I mean, at one point, my downstairs, I think, was measuring about 85 to 86, maybe 87 degrees. So there are no overhead fans in my house, so the heat just kind of sits there. So it was so in normal circumstances that would suck, but then obviously with my wife being very, 3/4 of the way through a pregnancy, it's been trying, but we made it through to the other side.
Nice. Listen, let me clarify. Not only do I know a guy at Triple O, I know the owner of Triple O.
Which is why I was so surprised when you said,
right,
just call him. And I was like, oh.
I've known the owner of Triple O probably his whole life. Me and his sister used to be really good friends.
Oh, boy. I can only imagine where this is going.
And I've used Triple O. As you know, I recently bought a house.
Yep.
And the second day in the house, I had a leak come through my ceiling in the kitchen from the bathroom. So I needed plumbing services, and they do plumbing services. So I reached out to him, and he was like, yeah, just call the main number. So, yes, I know the guy, friendly with the guy.
I see what you mean. Well, see, that makes more sense now. If that's the response that he gave you, then I'll let you off the hook.
Yeah, even I don't give favors. So,
well, I know in the past, I know how you are with, oh yeah, let me hook you up. I got a guy, I got a girl, let me give you the number, whatever. So that's why I was a little taken back, because I was like, wait a second, did I miss something? But it makes sense now. I appreciate that either way.
Yeah, man. They still do good work, though. Love
because the other place that I was going to go to was very expensive and felt more like I was being sold something than actually like being given the best product for my situation. Because
I understand.
my AC unit blew up; it was smoking, and the furnace was at least 25 years old, I think, if not older.
Okay.
So it was. I mean, when we bought our house, because as you know, Lewis, and as most people know, it feels weird, first off, to just jump on this podcast and not talk about sports and talk about other stuff. I'm not very used to that, so it's taking me a second. But
that's all right. The people will still listen.
I appreciate that. When buying a house in this competitive of a market, I know things have kind of slowed down in certain areas, but we've talked about it a couple times here on the podcast that you really have to pull out all the stops. And the one big stop that we had that we were comfortable with after walking through the house of this house we have now, after my dad walked through and we looked at all of everything and said, obviously it's going to need work. We looked at the furnace, looked at the AC unit and all that stuff. And we said, okay, so those are going to have to be replaced soon. So it's not like when we moved in, we weren't expecting it. And then at the start of the year,
you weren't expecting it so soon.
Well, I mean, I wish I could say that, but earlier this year, I actually had the other company whom I went through first to get an inspection done on the AC unit and the furnace to get an idea of how old it was, but also what shape it was in. And the guy flat out just said, "Look, it's in bad shape. Like if you're lucky if it lasts the season. If it does, congratulations, you got 1 year out of a really beat up system." He's
okay.
like, my suggestion would be to start saving your pennies now because it's going to stop working at some point in time. And when it does, it's not going to come back on. So he was right. It died. Excuse me. It didn't come back on. And it lasted us, like I said, probably if it had gone one more week, it would have lasted us pretty much the entire season. So we got very lucky, but still it's, dropping $8,000 in one afternoon is usually not the best way to spend a Friday, but knowing that when my baby is born and it's January, February, it's not going to be freezing cold in my house because the furnace died. So knock on wood. Now, if that does happen now, there are warranties and stuff like that in place that Triple O will take good care of me. But again, a situation where I feel like. And I know, Lewis, you can attest to this because you have been on this earth a few more years than I have, so you understand how this logic works. But it was, we could just get the AC unit fixed, but then we're walking on, a high wire Nick Wallenda style with the furnace, or we just do them both now, and then we don't have to worry for 20 years.
Oh yeah, take care of me. Speaking of, talking about knowing a person, so when me and my wife decided this, there's a story behind why we got the house as quickly as we did, but anyway, it's a long story. My wife's sister had recently bought a house, and so she told my wife to just go with her realtor. And I said to my wife, listen, I know a person. We should just go with the person that I know. And my wife was like, well, this person got Jennifer what she wanted, blah, blah, blah. So I was like, all right, call the dude, let me know what you think. So I called the dude. She talks to him for 40 minutes. She can't stand him. She calls me up. She's like, I don't like this dude. And I was like, okay, so let me call my person. And so I called my person, talked to her for a little bit, had her call my wife. My wife called me back, says, I really like her. Let's go with her. 2.5 weeks later, bro, we had a house. So,
That's fantastic. I mean, it's look that's the one thing I've noticed about, I mean, not to get philosophical here, but a life, but especially with houses and stuff, is that you'll go see a bunch of houses, you'll go see a bunch of, good places, bad places, I guess okay places that you're like, I would be fine if we got this place. But once you get to that house where you're like, oh yeah, this is the house, it's just, you just have that feeling, you just know. And then the universe works in mysterious ways. It
does. We saw in the couple of weeks that we looked, we saw a bunch of houses. Some of them were interesting, to be polite.
Look at, I'll never forget the house that we went and looked at in Batavia. the first house that we bought. One of the houses we had seen, the guy had built a truck stop urinal in the basement. So,
okay, awesome.
or a truck stop stall that had a urinal in it. I apologize. So it was
okay. Hey,
a choice was made there.
Right, but at least was it covered? Was it like walls and stuff?
It was like painted plywood.
Okay, because
it was like it had like a real murder. It had like a real murdery vibe, you know.
Vibe to it, yeah. Because we saw a couple houses that had toilets, functional toilets, just in the middle of the basement.
Interesting.
With no walls, which was super bizarre.
I guess if anything else, you can build around it, but still, that's a choice was made. Yeah. A choice was definitely made.
We went into another house, and I was going to say no to the house anyway. The floors were beat up. It just was not. There was going to be a lot of work that had to go into it. And we went into the basement, and while we were looking at stuff in the basement, I noticed a tag hanging from one of the pipes. So I went to look at it, and there was a tag from a heating and conditioning company that said fixed gas leak on it, and the fix was just electrical tape wrapped around the pipe, and the electrical tape was moist. So I was like, we should probably get out of this house.
Yeah, let's leave now. Let's leave now.
Yeah. So while I went over there to tell him that, our real estate agent was looking at the fuse box, and she was like, yeah, so these fuse boxes have to be replaced because they're known to spontaneously combust. So we were in a house that had a fuse box that would, A, spontaneously combust, and 2, had a leaky gas pipe in the basement.
Yeah, it sounds like corners were cut there.
Yeah, a little bit.
A choice was made again. Part 2. Good God, that's just stupid.
Another house we went into, we were walking down into the basement, and midway down the steps, you can smell gas. So we turned around and walked out.
Wow.
Like, nope.
I'm glad it worked out the way it did then, you know?
It did. We got a nice house, man.
I'm glad to hear that. I can't wait to see it. Yeah, I can't wait to see it. So let's jump into our 3 big things here, because I do have a couple things to talk about. Some of it being new, some of it being kind of a step back, because I want to get your thoughts on a few different things. But first off, if you haven't listened, I'm gonna run you down this season. We've got a new sponsor sponsoring our 3 big things. A good friend of the pod, puckluck.com. Our 3 big things are brought to you by puckluck.com, your one-stop resource for all your NHL sports betting action. Puckluck provides win percentages and score projections for each and every NHL game to tilt the ice in your favor. Not sure what to bet or just in a rut? Not to worry. Puckluck provides expert picks to get the puck bouncing your way. Quick heads up, though, puckluck.com is in no way affiliated with the NHL, its teams, or the NHLPA. Puckluck.com provides data related to gambling and cannot guarantee the success of any suggested or related wagers. And Lewis, as always, please gamble responsibly. With that being said.
Now, hold on, I have a question.
Uh-oh.
In that little spiel, you said to get the puck bouncing your way. We're talking about hockey. Shouldn't it be to get the puck sliding your way?
The puck can bounce. The puck can bounce your way. Have you not watched the hockey puck bounce?
I have.
You're killing me, dog.
They just slide more than they bounce.
Don't try to come in here on the podcast and then just take over and try to cut things like that. I'm only kidding. You're fine. So, Lewis, week 1. The NFL's in the books. We're already on to week 2. The Washington Football Club and the Giants played Thursday Night Football last night as of time of recording. I fell asleep. I woke up. Turns out that they missed the game-winning field goal, but then someone was offside, so they re-kicked it, and then they lost. Then Washington won, and the Giants lost, which the Giants are a tire fire for a different day. That's really a podcast on its own. But going back to week 1, what happened to all the quote-unquote Super Bowl contenders, man? I mean, you've got the Buffalo Bills losing to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, granted, the Steelers are good and in their own right, probably a Super Bowl contending team, depending on who you ask. You've got the Arizona Cardinals, who I don't know that anybody would say that they were a Super Bowl contender, but they're a very good team. But the team that they crushed, the Tennessee Titans, they lost. The Cardinals beat the Titans 38-13. The Titans were definitely a Super Bowl contender, if not Super Bowl favorite for some people. You look at the Chiefs beating the Browns 33-29. Not super surprising, although at one point the Browns had a double-digit lead and happened to lose. I would have to say, there's a big surprise. I should say Monday Night Football. The Raiders defeat the Ravens 33-27 in overtime. The Raiders scoring 17 points in the fourth quarter to push that one to overtime. But really one of the biggest surprises of the weekend, Lewis, the New Orleans Saints beating the Green Bay Packers 38-3 in Jacksonville. Now, the funny thing I saw about this game was how did the Buccaneers, or what were one of the games that the Buccaneers played last year? They lost 38-3 to the Saints last year. Someone said that Aaron Rodgers was just fulfilling his Tom Brady bingo scorecard for the season, lose to the Saints 38-3, check on his way to the Super Bowl. So if that works out, maybe. But for you, Lewis, what was the biggest surprise out of week one where out of all these Super Bowl contenders I mentioned, who should we pump the brakes on, and then who should we kind of start to get worried about, do you think?
After the first week, to me, I would say pump the brakes on the Green Bay Packers. Are they going to go on a roll? Probably. Did Aaron Rodgers look awesome? Not even slightly. Between, all his off-duty stuff, hosting Jeopardy for a week, which, by the way, he was not a good Jeopardy host. He sucked. Just throwing that out there for John, who on his Facebook page said he thought he'd be a good host.
Well, I was going to say, normally when you say, and this is not every situation, but situations like this, if you say something is really terrible, I tend to like it. I didn't watch it, but I would presume then, because you said, no joke, you said Aaron Rodgers was terrible. So my first reaction was, okay, so he was probably fine.
No. He was terrible. Like,
this is our relationship, Lewis. This is how things go between us. Is you're like,
absolutely.
This thing. I won't do the impression, but I'll just kind of word it like you do. You'll say so and so freaking sucks, and I'll say probably not. But that's just my opinion, though. That's why we're here. That's why we have a podcast. Because if we agreed about everything, then why would we have a podcast? It would be boring.
Exactly. And normally we don't agree about everything, but I watched a bunch of Jeopardy with the different hosts, and some of them were good, some of them were bad, and Aaron Rodgers was in the bad area. And he looked bad on Sunday. So he's not in form. I don't think he's going to take the promised land.
I guess my question for you then, if we're going to talk about the Saints-Packers quick, is what's more likely, the Packers rebound and Aaron Rodgers gets back to MVP form, or is Jameis Winston the answer for the Saints, or both?
You know what? I'm going to go with both, because Jameis Winston got his eye surgery, and now he can see, so he looked really good. And I think Aaron Rodgers will come around, but I don't think they're a Super Bowl contender. I think there's teams out there that have a much better chance than they do. Will they be a playoff team? Probably. Maybe. But once again, it's week one, just like the Buffalo Bills. They lost. They didn't look spectacular.
Real quick here, I want to mention, Lewis, before we move forward here, I wanted to say cute quarterback rating. I'm trying to find, I think it's 39. Someone will have to correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm not going to search for it right now. To explain, Lewis, how bad of a day Aaron Rodgers had under center for the Green Bay Packers in week one. His quarterback rating was a 36.8. If I'm not mistaken, if I remember correctly, if I or you, Lewis, were to step under center for one play and throw an incomplete pass, we would get a 39.6 rating for the day. So again, that's like the default. That's like the default rating for a quarterback if you were to, just show up and have a heartbeat. And Aaron Rodgers had a worse rating than that. So again, I don't think Aaron Rodgers is going to continue at that pace. I agree with you. I don't think Jameis Winston can keep up his 14 for 20, 5 touchdowns, 14 completions, 5 of them being for touchdowns. I don't think that'll continue. But man,
it won't.
It's really funny because I saw something about Drew Brees saying that after he saw Jameis Winston complete a long touchdown pass, it's like, oh, that's what the offense had been missing all along. Sorry, I was the problem. But I agree with you. If you get a coach, you got a good head coach in Sean Payton with the Saints. I mean, you've got the expanded playoffs. I certainly think, and I know we didn't do an NFL preview cast, which, time did not grant it well because obviously between work and moving and everything else, it was very difficult, which is totally fine. Personally, I think all 4 NFC West teams are going to sneak into the playoffs, which obviously eliminates any other chance for any other team to sneak in because obviously you've got the four division winners and then 3 wild card teams with the 5, 6, and 7 slots. I think that, it's one week. It's one game. I'm still sticking I'm still standing where I stand. I think that the NFC West is going to be incredible, especially after seeing Matt Stafford on Sunday night in that offense. It's just, again, consider the opponent being the Chicago Bears, and they're on again, off again. But I'll tell you what, man, I think we're in for a good season of football. As you heard on Trust the Podcast, or may or may not have heard. If you didn't hear, please listen. You can hear Trust the Podcast, gearnetwork.com, betterlivethanddead.com, wherever you get your podcast. You'll hear me and John Cimino talk about the Bills. Anyway, back from the cheap plug, bringing it back around. The team I'm most worried about, Lewis, and it's not because they lost. It plays into it, but it's not because they lost that I'm worried about them. But the Baltimore Ravens, against the Las Vegas Raiders, again, granted, it was at home for the Raiders, so maybe they were a little more juiced up or whatever because it was the first home game where they had fans in Las Vegas, and it was a raucous crowd there. It looked like it was a lot of fun. But Lamar Jackson only completed 19 of 30 passes for 235 yards, only had 1 passing touchdown, was sacked 3 times. But the one thing I'm worried about, as a team, as a whole, they ran the ball 34 times for 189 yards. That's fantastic. But 12 of those carries, 12 of the 34 carries as a team, and 86 of the 189 yards came from Lamar Jackson.
Right.
They've lost players. They've lost offensive linemen. They've lost big defensive players. They've lost wide receivers. They've lost running backs. They've lost everything. I think they've lost wide receivers. If not, I know they've lost, I think, 3 running backs now. They just signed Devonta Freeman to the active roster. They've got Latavius Murray, Tyson Williams. He was 9 rushes for 65 yards. He'll probably be the lead back. But again, for a team that was expected to come out of the gates firing, they've got some problems they have to fix. Again, granted, like the other teams, like the Bills, like the Titans, like the Browns, all the other potential Super Bowl contenders, and air quotes, if you will, that lost in week 1, I'll have some work to do. But honestly, I think if you're a Ravens fan, the collar's getting a little tight, a little quick.
Yes, 100%.
Especially in that division too.
Yeah, Lamar Jackson didn't look good. He didn't look good. He made some bad mistakes. Granted, he wasn't protected. So I'm on the throughway. I just got passed by a minivan doing about 100, and now he's about to get pulled over by a state trooper.
Perfect.
Couldn't have happened to a nicer person. So anyway, Lamar Jackson did not look good. So I agree with you. I think they are in trouble.
I think the biggest bonehead move of the weekend, and we talked about this on Trust the Podcast, was the Bills offense thinking that without Zach Moss, who was a healthy scratch for some reason, I don't expect that to happen on Sunday. If it does, I guess we'll find out. But running 5 wide, empty backfields, and not giving Josh Allen any extra support in the backfield to block to give him more time, I think that was one of the bigger bonehead moves of the weekend. But we'll see how things progress. But I want to kind of take a step back, Lewis, still with football here, and look at some 2021 storylines, because there are a couple things I do want to get your opinion on here. First, looking at Indianapolis, which we find out that we're going to get the first in-season Hard Knocks, which is pretty cool. But do you think the reunion of Carson Wentz and Frank Reich will work for the Colts? I mean, Wentz played under Frank Reich when he was the offensive coordinator in Philadelphia. That was in 2017. That season, Wentz was 11-2 with his 60.2 completion percentage. He had 3,296 passing yards with 33 touchdowns and 7 interceptions before tearing his ACL against the Rams that season. Wentz missed some time this preseason with injury and due to COVID-19 protocols because he is notably unvaccinated, still doing his research, if you will, in air quotes, I guess, if, we're almost on to year 2 of this pandemic, but apparently people are still doing the research, much like Nicki Minaj with her friend and his gigantic testicles. But Louis, do you think Carson Wentz and Frank Reich will work for Indianapolis, or is this kind of a marriage made in hell, if you will?
Okay. First of all, you had to bring up Nicki Minaj.
First of all, homeboy has an STD. Homeboy didn't get that from COVID or a COVID vaccination, but I give you the floor, Louis.
No. Much like gonorrhea, I don't think this pairing's going to work out real well. I think they'll have their moments.
I like it.
But I don't know. I don't know if it's going to be the match made in heaven. I would like to see him do well because I like Carson Wentz. He's cool, but I think he's just not. I don't think Carson Wentz is as good as a quarterback as everyone made him out to be. So I don't think it's going to work out.
I think in the right situation, he'll be fine. But here's the thing. They need to adjust, I think, their system as much as he needs to adjust to their system, because that first week, again, it was one game after missing a ton of time in preseason. But it was funny watching, because I've got a football list with a bunch of NFL writers that I follow on Twitter, and a bunch of the Philadelphia writers were like, different teams, same quarterback. And it's Carson Wentz just holding the ball way too long, not reading clearly not reading the defenses in time because he's holding the ball and just not effective at all. And that was really his problem in Philadelphia, is that he just essentially became ineffective.
Right.
And I think it's worth a shot because you don't really pay a ton in the grand scheme of things, but yikes, man.
Yeah, it's going to be, I don't know. I don't think it's going to be a dumpster fire, but I don't think it's going to be fantastic.
Now, granted, we talk about that, and Carson Wentz was 25 for 38 for 251 yards and 2 touchdowns, but he was sacked 3 times for a total loss of 28 yards. And they did play the Seattle Seahawks, who, even though Chris Carson had a really good day, Russell Wilson had a really good day. The Seahawks are a perennial deep playoff contender, if not Super Bowl contender. So a nice measuring stick for Indianapolis. It's not like the season's over because they lost this game. But still it's a situation where you want to make sure that what comes first, the cart or the horse or whatever, the horse or the wagon, and let's pump the brakes and lower expectations a little, just until Carson Wentz can get his feet under him. Just God forbid he doesn't get hurt, but
right.
Now the question I wanted, the question. Oh yeah, absolutely. The question I've been dying to ask you, Louis, all preseason and now into the regular season. Dallas Cowboys quarterback Dak Prescott returns from a horrific lower leg injury, only to seemingly hurt his shoulder in the preseason. Prescott was a full go for week 1 against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but after Prescott signed a 4-year, $160 million contract extension this offseason, and then in week 1, in a losing effort to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Dak Prescott threw the ball. He had 42 completions on 58 attempts. It's a lot of passes, but it's also a lot of completions. He had 403 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, and 1 interception. Only sacked 1 time. Also ran the ball 4 times for 13 yards. He looked pretty damn good, Louis. But the question I have for you, as a Cowboys fan, how worried are you with Prescott coming back from such a devastating leg injury? He has the shoulder problem or the side problem in the preseason. And really, you've seen with Dak Prescott being out, you now know how important of a piece he is to that Dallas Cowboys offensive puzzle. So I guess I keep asking the same question, but essentially, how worried are you with Dak Prescott's health this regular season?
You know, that's a tough one because I was against how much they gave him. He had put up numbers, that's true, but he hadn't done anything. You know what I'm saying? They haven't made it to a Super Bowl. They haven't advanced to the playoffs. I wasn't sure if he was the guy.
But you know the deal. You know the deal. You got to pay to play. If you have a guy who could be the quarterback, right. I mean, I don't remember his contract. Let me look it up really quick. But I feel like if you look dumber, I think in this day and age in the NFL, and it's something too where we're hearing a lot about it this offseason with the 22 or the 2022 NFL draft coming up, where they're saying right now there aren't any like knockdown, drag out top prospects in the national or in the NCAA right now. My dog is trying to get on the podcast and he will not stop barking. It's driving me absolutely insane. Right now it looks like they have an out after 2024. So I guess where Dak Prescott would be a UFA after 2025 or 2026, it looks like they can still get out of the deal relatively quickly. But with that being said, you look stupider if you let him walk and he goes somewhere else and he's effective than if you sign him and say, well, we thought we had the guy, we took a chance, and we were wrong.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. That was just a lot of freaking money. He looked good.
It absolutely is.
If he can stay healthy, I think the Cowboys will make some noise. I'm not going to give you my opinion on that game because you probably know what my opinion is.
You hate Tom Brady. You hate Tom Brady just as much as you hate the Pittsburgh Steelers. I understand.
No, you know what? Listen, I used to hate Tom Brady. I respect Tom Brady now.
Well, there's a difference. Like, you can still respect somebody but not like them. I mean, that's totally fair. I get that.
Yeah, but you know what? I can't say I don't like Tom Brady. Tom Brady, excuse me, I got something stuck in my throat. I'm going to put you on mute.
That's okay. I'll talk. Tom Brady has more Super Bowl rings than the Dallas Cowboys does.
Yes, I know he does. He's got more Super Bowl rings than any other team.
I just had to say something that filled the time, but also that popped into my head, but also hopefully triggered you. That's what I was going for.
I understand.
I was waiting for you to be like, I'm going to drive my goddamn car off the road.
Right. No, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah, please don't. Don't put that on my conscience.
You can't deny the Tom Brady greatness. You can't deny he's probably the GOAT when it comes to football quarterbacks.
Probably, Lewis? We're not talking Michael Jordan, LeBron James here. There's no one who can touch Tom Brady.
Yes, I agree with you there. I do actually agree with you there. Okay. But you know what? I'm just going to say it. I'll probably get ridiculed by people listening to this podcast, and I don't care. The Cowboys had that game won, and they didn't call that pass interference. They gave the Bucs the ball close. Anyway, the refs won that game for the Buccaneers. Tom Brady looked good. The Bucs looked good, but the Cowboys had them. I think the Cowboys are going to be able to rebound and make some noise.
So
I think the Bucs are a Super Bowl contender.
I'm looking right now to see if I can find this this video. I can't find it. I get what you're saying. As a Cowboys fan, it's hard to separate yourself from that. I mean, there have been some suspect calls. I know in the Bills game there were some suspect holding calls, but then we find out that the rules committee the competition committee wants more offensive holding calls called, which is stupid because, I mean, if you're going to call offensive holding, you can call offensive holding on every single damn play. But that's, again, a hill I'm not willing to die on right now. But I agree with you about the Dallas Cowboys. I think that they are the best team in the NFC East as long as Dak Prescott is healthy, even if Ezekiel Elliott is ineffective, which granted the Buccaneers defensive front line is very good. The Cowboys offensive line has been banged up. But even if Ezekiel Elliott is not as effective as he once was, which I find hard to believe, but excuse me, even if that's the case, if Dak Prescott's healthy, Dak Prescott's going to cook. And there's no question about that. I mean, the guy can sling the ball. Excuse me. I'm dying over here, apparently.
The wide receivers look good on Sunday.
Well, I was about to say that having Amari Cooper on one side and CeeDee Lamb on the other side, I could probably throw for 400 yards. Nothing against Dak Prescott, but I'm saying that those guys are that talented that they make – the quarterback not only elevates their play, but they elevate the quarterback's play. It's a nice little – it's kind of like with Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs, I feel like, where Allen can make Diggs better, but Diggs also makes Allen better, I guess, if that makes any sense. But, I mean, with the current state of the NFC East, with Daniel Jones, who I referred to last night as the clearance aisle at the dollar store version of Josh Allen, that was impressive. It's a deep dive there. Washington, who, I mean, after watching that game last night, Taylor Heineke, he probably can be serviceable in the National Football League, but both quarterbacks in that Giants and Washington game were holding onto the ball way too long. It was a surprise both of them didn't get jackhammered into the ground. So there's those two teams. And the Philadelphia Eagles, I mean, with Jalen Hurts, if they figured out, maybe that'll be difficult for the Cowboys. But I think that I think the Cowboys are they're going to represent the East in the playoffs. I would have to presume, unless something crazy happens. But I don't see why Dak Prescott won't lead the league in passing yards this season, because they love to pass the ball. And look, you pay that guy an ass load of money, go for it.
No, I agree with you there. Me and you agree on that aspect as well.
Hey, look at that. Makes the podcast much easier. Hey, so before we go to take our quick commercial break, and we're going to come back and talk about baseball real quick because we haven't done that in a while. Plus, also, I think dinner is almost ready, so I got to wrap up here shortly. But how long, Lewis, until Urban Meyer fakes a heart attack to leave the NFL? Is that too rude?
I'm giving them till week 6.
I mean, we already know that the players aren't thrilled with him in his college-like ways, and also he treats the players like college kids, apparently. But holy crap, man! It's like no joke. Like, Nick Saban is the greatest college football coach of all time. Don't get me wrong, but his stint with the Dolphins was laughable. Like, you knew once he got there, he realized he made a mistake. And I think Urban Meyer is quickly. I mean, look at dude. It's not even week. Like, they haven't played their second game yet. In the social media department, or the PR department, has already had to put out statements about how happy Urban Meyer is in Jacksonville because the USC job came available. Like, at some point in time, one of those jobs is going to come available, and he's going to jump.
He's going to bounce. I agree. You think Nick Saban is the greatest college coach ever?
He's won like 9 million national championships, man.
Okay.
Like, what they do with those, I mean, I've again, arbitrarily throwing it out there, but yeah, I mean, I'll have to do some research. I mean, we could talk about it in the future, but yeah, why not? Sounds like you don't agree with me, so I'll pop that in the back of my brain. But we'll take a quick commercial break here, Lewis, and we'll be back with more of the Better Live Than Dead podcast right after this. And we're back here on the Better Live Than Dead podcast. I'm going to kind of combine this last segment to be the third of the three big things, but also our look ahead and wrap up here on the podcast. Looking at Major League Baseball, it really looks like with the wild card, or with the season rapidly approaching the playoffs here, the calendar rapidly approaching October, we've got. I'm just going to start in the National League here. In the NL East, I mean, it's close, but it looks like, I mean, it's either going to be Philadelphia or Atlanta. I know the Mets are 5.5 games back, but they've lost 3 straight heading into this podcast. It looks like Milwaukee is going to handle the Central. And then you've got the Giants and the Dodgers duking it out. One gets a guaranteed playoff spot. The other gets guaranteed home field advantage in the one-game playoff for a playoff spot. So that'll be a lot of fun. Can you imagine how that wild card game is going to play out? In the AL West, it looks like Houston, they're 7 games up. The elimination number's 10. Looks like they'll wrap that up. The White Sox, again, the elimination number 7. They have an 11-game lead over Cleveland. That looks like it's wrapped up. Tampa Bay, the elimination number is 8. They have an 8.5-game lead over second place Toronto. So, again, that looks wrapped up. So, really what we're looking at, Lewis, is the wild card. And in the National League, you've got St. Louis. You've got San Diego. I'm sorry. You've got St. Louis in the spot now playing the Dodgers. But you've got San Diego half game back. Cincinnati's a game back. Philadelphia 2.5 back. The Mets 5 back. Might be a little too far. But again, there's a lot of good action in the National League. And then you look over at the American League, and it's just as good. You've got Toronto, Boston, the Yankees, all within a half game of each other. Right now it's Toronto, Boston in the wild card game. But you've got Oakland 3 back and Seattle 4 back, which might be a little far, especially seeing that they've lost 2 in a row here. But what are you watching these last few, aside from obviously the Yankees, what are you watching the last few weeks of the season as the regular season wraps up and heads to the postseason?
Before I tell you that, I'm going to tell you who I think the greatest college coach is ever.
Okay.
For football.
Okay.
And his name is Nick Saban.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. I had to try to, I had to pretend to disagree with you because we've been agreeing way too much on this podcast.
I mean, look that's what happens though when we don't talk in a while. I think that kind of happens where we don't get that disagreement. So if we talk more, then we disagree more. But I mean, looking at it honestly, looking at it right now, Nick Saban, I don't even know where he is on this damn list here. Oh, Nick Saban has 257 career victories, right? But he's won 7 national championships.
That's pretty damn good.
So, like, in his career, in college, he's 258, 65-1 with 7 national championships.
Yeah, that's crazy, first of all. That's just nuts.
So, like, I don't know who would be up there. I mean, I'm looking at the list like Bobby Bowden, Joe Paterno, Bear Bryant. But then you look at all them.
Even they didn't win, that many.
I mean, Bear Bryant won 7 national championships. Bobby Bowden only won 2. Joe Paterno won 2. So, like, maybe Nick Saban and Bear Bryant, just because Bear Bryant's got more wins in his career. But, like, how does one goddamn college get 2 of the same types of coaches? Like, how?
Yeah, that's crazy. But anyway, so back to baseball. Honestly, I really don't know what I'll be watching. The race between the Jays, the Boston Red Sox, and Yankees is what obviously I'm really interested in.
Yeah. Well, I'm interested too in Toronto. Like, just to jump in real fast, Toronto getting hot at the right time.
That's the thing. They are. I mean, they put up 22 runs the other day. What the freak?
They're 8-2 in their last. They're 8-2 in their last 10. They're doing what a good baseball team does. They're beating up on lesser opponents.
Yeah, and the Yankees went on that 13-game winning streak. I thought they were going to stay hot. They didn't. They cooled off. So I'm curious to see. That race to me is the most compelling race in baseball right now.
Absolutely. I mean, not to mention too, because it's the biggest division with 2 of the biggest teams in really all of sports. So
100%.
Looking at it, it's a lot of fun. I mean,
I
know like when Joey Gallo came over, you look and you're like, damn it, that's going to be garbage because Joey Gallo is going to get a bunch of home runs, but he has 11 home runs, only has 23 hits though. So he's batting 156 for the Yankees. But like, that's what I love about Joey Gallo, mind you. I love that. What was it? What year was it? Let me look really quick. He had, it was in 2017. He had 41 home runs and only 94 hits.
Right.
So like almost half of his hits were home runs. The next year he had 40 home runs, only 103 hits all season. Almost half of his hits were home runs. In 2019, he had 22 home runs, only 61 hits. Like, that's a lot of fun. In 2020, he played 57 games with the shortened COVID season, 10 home runs on 35 hits. Like, it's absurd. It's absolutely absurd.
I was not sold on them picking up Joey Gallo.
It's that short porch, man. It's that short porch. It doesn't matter. Yeah. He's the type of player where you're going to say he's going to strike out a lot. He's going to walk a bunch. But if he gets a hit, it's going to be a home run. It won't be anything else.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah, that's true. I wasn't sold on him. Go ahead.
I was going to say the one thing that's pissed me off about the Red Sox is they don't take COVID seriously. And we know that because they've had, I think, 12 players now, either test positive or at least be on the COVID list, which,
right.
Let me just mention really quick, and this is nothing against these players, but there was a point in time within the past 30 days, Lewis, that I was looking at the Red Sox transactions and going, who's that?
Right,
that's a real person. Like, no joke. Let me just go down this list really quick. I mean, Cutter Crawford. I knew Cutter Crawford because he was a Red Sox prospect. Plus, you can never forget a guy named Cutter Crawford.
Crawford, yeah.
You get a guy like Brandon Brennan. I have no idea who that is. Looking down this list here, before this season, I had never heard of Yaxiel Rios, who's actually turned out to be a halfway decent pitcher for the Red Sox this season. Jack Lopez, no idea who he was. I had heard a little bit about Taylor Motter, but again, you're just like, I mean, the Red Sox, for God's sake, brought back Jose Iglesias, who hasn't been bad in his 10 games with the Red Sox, batting .450. But, like, you look at this and you go, dude, what the hell is going on? Like, I'm looking back through – let me just look back through this list here really quick. The Red Sox – they picked up Brad Peacock, who at one point this season he's pitched 2 games, Lewis. I'll let you guess his ERA. 15.19.
Damn.
All right. Let's see who else they called up at one point in time. John Schreiber, never heard of him. Jeff Hartley, no idea.
Okay.
Let me go back to August because that's when COVID was happening here. August. Let's see. Steven Gonsalves, not a clue. Jose Nova, he signed a minor league deal. No idea. Raynel Espinal, couldn't tell you. So again, Yayar Munoz, no idea. Again, maybe I'm a bad baseball fan, but when your team is calling up guys like that, maybe you're doing something wrong. And I know I read an article today. I don't know when it came out, but I read it today. It was recent. Adam Ottavino talking about how the Red Sox were not taking COVID seriously. And he was pissed because even vaccinated players were getting COVID. So again, as I always like to say, Lewis, you play stupid games, my friend. You win stupid prizes. And the Red Sox sucked a bag of ass coming out of the All-Star break. They started to get a little better, and then they got COVID, and they kind of played through it. But again, at this point, like, if this team doesn't make the playoffs, it's on them because they had a great start to the season and then just, for lack of a better explanation, shit down their leg.
I agree. At least with the breakthrough cases, if you're vaccinated, you don't really get sick, which is cool. But I just want to say this. I'm Puerto Rican. I've known a ton of Lopez's in my life. I ain't never heard of a Lopez named Jack.
He's got to be a cop.
That is not a Spanish first name. Just throw that out there.
You got to be a cop at that point. Like, there's just no doubt about it.
Yeah, for real. But hey, you
like,
know
oh,
what?
my name is Herbert. Like, okay, what's your badge ID number, bro? Like, come on.
Right. At least with the breakthrough cases, you know, they were able to recover and none of their testicles were swelled up. You know, so
I mean, that is at the end of the day, that's the goal, to avoid testicular swelling. I don't know. I was going to say something else, but I don't know what word I was going for.
Unlike, you know, Nicki Minaj's cousin friend.
Yeah, rest in peace his beanbag, because bro, it sounds like it's in bad shape.
You know what? Maybe they don't have penicillin over there. I'm not sure. But,
I'm allergic to penicillin, so I got to be careful.
Oh yeah, you need to be real.
Well, I wouldn't. I don't know why we even need to say that, because I'm like,
yeah, I was gonna say, like,
for obvious reasons, but you know,
you're happily married. You got a kid coming on the way.
Yeah,
you know,
I don't need to worry about that. Although I could be like Nicki Minaj's cousin's friend. Well, I got poked with a needle that gave me malaria, or gave me whatever. I don't know what I was going to say. I'm reading about Chris Sale. That's one thing, by the way, I must say real quick before we wrap up the podcast, because it's gone completely off the rails, as it always normally does. Chris Sale has returned to form in this season after coming back from Tommy John surgery, and I am very pleased to see that.
Yeah, he's looked good. He's looked real good.
Also, I'm going to put it out there right now. If the Boston Red Sox don't sign Rafael Devers to a long-term deal this offseason, stupid games, stupid prizes. Happens all the time.
Yeah, no, I agree.
It's not very often you get a 24-year-old third baseman who has 34 home runs and 103 RBIs and is batting .273 in the month of September. So,
yeah, you should sign that dude.
Yeah, don't play that game, you moron. So, I guess, Lewis, with that being said, watch out for the COVID, for the ball swelling. Glad that didn't happen to you.
Me too. I mean, I already got big balls, so
I don't want to hear that. I didn't need to hear that this evening. I could have really done without that. So
you're welcome.
It's great. It's awesome. Well, I'm Wolfe at Wolfe BLTD on Twitter until I delete my account and move to Siberia to get away from that visual image. Lewis is at MRLG Perez on Twitter. He's driving safely on the thruway. Continue to do that, please. Thanks for joining me. Last minute. We didn't have a podcast written, but I think we did a good job.
I agree. This was a fun one.
I always try to do that. So that being said, we'll have to get together soon. We'll do this again soon. We'll get some donuts. We'll hang out and chat in person and get to see your house.
I need to have you and John over to my crib. We'll jump into my lounge / studio, do it in person, have a good time. But you know how that goes. Me and John, with you, it always goes off the rails.
We'll have to record 4 or 5 podcasts because it'll be that damn long.
Exactly.
So, with that being said, again, as always, if you haven't remembered or have forgotten, don't get it twisted. We are better live than dead.
You're not.
We'll catch you sometime very soon. Thanks again for tuning in. As always, we appreciate you, and we'll talk to you sometime very soon.
Deuces.
The preceding presentation has been brought to you by the Gear Network.